I shall do a video. Welcome to church, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man, so as you guys know, or maybe you don't know and you're finding out right now, we got the Sinquefield Cup going on, and I bring to you the only decisive game in the tournament so far. It is round 4. We got Wesley So versus Richárd Rapport. And all my people coming from the Philippines, as always, I will say, maraming salamat for stopping by. I appreciate you guys. Anybody who is coming from Romania, I will say, mulțumesc. Anybody who is coming from Hungary, since Richárd Rapport is from Hungary originally, I will say kusenem. But if you guys are ready to go, homie, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, son. So we got the move C4. Definitely one of the great moves. We got knight to F6. We got knight to C3, G6, E4, D6, D4, bishop to G7, and we have the move F3. Now, backing up, for those of you who don't play C4, maybe you play D4, there's definitely a more common way to get to this, and it is playing the initial move D4, and you see very similar kind of lines getting taken down. So knight goes to F6, we see C4, we got G6, knight to C3, and because black knows that E4 is about to come up, you just knock D6 out the way immediately because you definitely don't want E4, E5 coming. We got E4, and then you'll see bishop G7 and F3. And so that is going to be more of a common way to get there. But we do have this position here. And we have, after castles, we got knight G to E2. And this is a King's Indian defense. And stay with me right here because there are 4 people's names attached to this opening. So this is known as the King's Indian defense Sämisch, Bobotsov-Korchnoi-Petrosian variation. So it's not every day that you get 4 people's names that they're like, hey, man, I'm taking ownership of it too. Usually you get like 1, maybe 2. Anyways, man, we got this rolling. So we do see the move knight to C6. We got bishop to E3. So you guys can... Those of you that do play E4 and you play against the Sicilian Dragon, you guys will see some familiarity in this position because it does kind of have a lot of the same ideas. You got the bishop E3, you got the F3, you know, kind of looking like the Yugoslav attack, right? Correct. We do see the move A6. We got queen going to D2. We got bishop to D7. And then we do see the rook going to B1. Now, I'm thinking maybe some of you guys might be wondering, okay, now we're developing, we're doing what we kind of need to do, but why did I go knight G to E2 for? Like I'm blocking my bishop, like I'm supposed to be trying to get castled, right? Well, one of the things that you need to kind of understand from the white perspective if you're playing against the King's Indian is one of the most thematic moves that black can actually play. And you usually see the knight moving out of the way to do so, like a lot of times either back to D7 or to E8, is an F5 pawn break. And this is absolutely one of the biggest ideas in the King's Indian. So one of the ideas as white is to actually go G4 and kind of tuck this knight behind it with knight to G3. And you are putting like an absolute clamp down on these F5 square. And you're also... when you do push G4, if you do at some point push G5 and you knock this knight, if it tries to go over here, you do have this knight poised to take it off the board, and you're causing black some structural damage. So there's a lot of deep, you know, kind of ideas with that. We do see, like I said, the move rook to B1. We got H5 because I just was telling you guys a second ago that G4 is a really, really big idea to stop F5. So to try to keep it live, black goes H5 and is trying to prevent white from going G4. Well, like I said, we do see B4. Another one of the ideas that white is trying to do is this knight is kind of legitimately placed. So, you know, we kind of want to maybe knock it out of the way a little bit. So it's a race to try to get the ideas flowing. So we do see knight to H7, and this is the novelty of the game. You don't generally kind of try to push F5 this way, but it's definitely a possibility. So, you know, white is trying to play immediately against that, and we see the move D5, and we are knocking black's knight this way, and we're just gaining some space on the queen side. So the knight does go to E5. We see knight to D4. So if you're white, what you're looking at in the position is, you know, black is desperately trying to... White has a lot of space. So if you notice, you know, you got E4, C4, B4, D5. you see that white is absolutely winning the space game, right? So black needs to try to chip away at white's space advantage some kind of way. So you have to do that with a pawn break or like a piece sacrifice, but there isn't one in the position for black. So you are thinking of moves which are really common, like c6, c5, maybe an e5. Can't do it now because knight is on e5, and maybe f5. F5 is a little bit less desirable in this specific position, but definitely C6 or C5 is an idea. So you see black kind of starting to go to that direction. We do see rook to C8 to try to prepare that. We got bishop to E2 because white is like, hey, man, I wouldn't mind castling one day, right? And then we do see the move C5. We got pawn taking C6 en passant, and then we have bishop taking C6. And in this position, Wesley So decides because one of white's slight weaknesses is their c4 pawn. So they're thinking, man, I got to try to do something to make sure that I'm protecting that pawn, because you definitely don't want, one of your important central pawns to drop off the board. So we do see rook over to c1. For those of you wondering, just winning, the double bishops was definitely a thing. You can go knight taking c6, and after rook takes, push c5, and you do have a good, protection of the c5 square. And you have actually won, the double bishops. So that's definitely a possibility too. But we do see rook to c1. We got bishop back to d7. Knight goes down to d1 because, like I said, the c4 pawn is under a little bit of pressure. And then we do see the move b5. And this is definitely what black should be trying to accomplish. And you see that they are severely fighting white on all of their space. We do see knight to b2. And then we do see knight taking c4, knight taking c4. And then we do see the move e5. And this is super interesting. Like, we got both the knights on pre in this position. You're good to go because you're really only getting one knight attacked because you have already taken black's knight off the board. So you are, for the moment, a piece up. And, it's not as crucial to get castled in this position because you have a situation where the structure is pretty closed in the center. So in contrast, if you have a completely open board in the center and there's bishops everywhere and stuff, the queen and the rook can kind of come in. You really don't want to just be stuck in the middle of the board, homie. So you want to kind of get castled in those situations. But we have reached a position right here where we have a really, really, really nice move for white to play. So if you want to pause the video and try to guess what move Wesley So has here, go ahead and do so. Okay, so, you're losing a piece right here. Like, black is going to be establishing piece equality, material equality in this position, right? So, that either your C5, C4, or D4 knight is going to be dropping off the board at some point. So, how do you want to kind of go down, in the position? Now, I always tell you guys all the time, if you're going to go down, if you're going to lose a piece, man, go down swinging. So definitely what you guys should be considering in this position is either knight takes e5 or knight takes b5. Knight takes e5 pretty much is just dead even. So you don't really want to do that. You actually help black with one of their structural weaknesses. So knight taking b5 is absolutely the move that I'm looking for. And then after the bishop takes, you can just castle in this position if you want to. But the major issue that black has is this backward d pawn. There really isn't a good way to just get rid of it. And there also isn't a good way to really protect it without making, taking a couple of moves. And after castles, you are prepared to go rook f to d1 to take advantage of that. But like I said before, in this position, if you did take here, they would absolutely be taking back with the d pawn. And basically, you would be eliminating their weakness for them. So you definitely don't want to help your opponent out. But in the game, we actually saw knight going back to b3, which is definitely a very logical move in its own right. And you're just, saving one of your knights. So we do get in this position where pawn takes c4, bishop takes c4. And you're expecting, you do have problems if you're black. So you kind of have this pawn on pre and this pawn on pre. You really can't save them both. This bishop is doing a good job of protecting the only square that the queen can go to protect both of those points. So you're going to be getting a pawn in this position. So Richárd Rapport decides, he's like, man, you know what? I'm going to go down swinging too. So he goes rook takes c4. And you guys can see that this is giving away the exchange. And you don't really get a lot of compensation back. It was definitely a move. But, white is actually doing great in this position. They don't really have a whole lot of threats to them. So rook does take c4, and then we have bishop to b5. But, the rook can just move. So that's literally what Wesley So does. He goes down rook to c1. Now, The computer really likes rook to c2, and it is because after the rook goes to c1, the top move is queen to h4 check, and you're kind of asking white, what does it want to do? And it might be a little bit of an issue that the king is in the center. You know, if you see g3, the queen can go down to h3 and you know, start to try to maybe kind of make inroads into white's position. So in light of that, it did like rook to c2. That way you can kind of shimmy over to the queen side just under the rook. But we did not see that. We saw rook to c1. We got the move d5 immediately. I mean, you're losing that pawn anyway. So you might as well just kind of give it away immediately. So we do see d5 and queen taking d5. And it is now that we see queen to h4 check. But, you know, the white king definitely has a little bit more room to roam in this position. And we do see g3. And queen to h3 is a move here. But, you know, because of the advantage that Wesley So has built up, you know, Richárd Rapport is kind of in a situation where, you know, he has to start kind of making like only moves to basically make sure that his position doesn't get any worse. But it's starting to kind of get forced into being worse. We got queen back to f6. We got king up to f2. And I mean, like I said, Wesley So's like, bro, not castling is not a problem. But the board is a lot more open now, so you kind of need to make sure you get your king in safety, homie. So we do see rook over to d8, but we're not worried. We're like, we're just go queen to b7, bro. Like, we're good to go, man. We got rook going down to d3, and then we have a killer move that I know all of you guys figured out. Queen to b6. White absolutely is dreaming of getting the queens off the board, and then their advantage will go up. And it's not really something that black really wants to do. But the problem is in this position, if you kind of move the queen somewhere random, you are allowing rook up to d7. And then this rook is going to be swinging over. And that exchange is going to start really causing you some pains. So you kind of have to go into this exchange. Queen takes b6, bishop takes b6. And I mean, white is living in a dream scenario right here. We got knight down to g5. And we're not even worried about this f3 pawn. You're like, man, this double attacking. It doesn't even matter, bro, because we got h4. And you're basically telling black, hey, man, if you want to take my pawn here, I'm going to sidestep over to g2, which is what we see. And your knight is on pre and your rook is hanging. And what are you going to do? You got to go down swinging. Rook takes b3. So you see black has just given up both of the exchanges. But they did get a little bit back. I mean, they're going to get this pawn in the center right here. And they did damage white's structure a little bit on the queen side. So, I mean, you kind of got a little bit of comp. But, I mean, white, like, look at the board. White is like, I got 2 rooks. Yeah, but I'm getting 2 pawns. I got 2 rooks. No. Knight takes e4, like I said. We got rook h to e1. Like, why not attack the knight? I mean, you know, just let me just drop it off the board, man. Get more material up. Knight goes to d2. Like I said, this is your only shot, is to go after this pawn right here. Try to do something, bro. Something somewhere. We got rook going to c8 with check. We do see a repetition, but not a draw. The rook goes down. We see the king going back. The rook checks. The king goes back. And then the rook goes back to c7. And, of course, white is going to have to try something else, because what would black love to do? Repeat. But Wesley So says, bro, who do you think I am, son? Like, this ain't a game. No, it is a game. But anyways, man. So, in this position, Wesley So says, I'm absolutely not repeating. So he goes rook to e3. And it is in this position that Richárd Rapport resigns the game. And it might not look completely obvious why he resigned the game. So I'll give you kind of like an example of what white's plan would be going forward and what black would be trying to do. You see this move rook to e3, right? Well, one of the ideas that white has that's very legitimate is they just want to go rook to c3, and they really just want to go rook up to c5. And they want to get this bishop off the board. That is one of the more obvious things. You are up 2 entire exchanges. So one of your goals as white would be to get one of these pairs, you know, one of these bishops off the board and just greatly weaken black. And you would be able to start mopping up pawns. If you can make a situation where you grab this last remaining pawn from black on this queen side, you do have 2 entire pawns that can make their way up the board. So that is definitely one of the ideas. So you would probably see black try to go against that idea with the move e4. And then rook would come down to c2. And you see that you kind of have a little bit of problem with your knight here. It does suggest knight to f3. And this just allows you to just snap a pawn off the board. And you still have that same idea of going after the bishop. But now you just have another pawn to the good. So in light of all of this, Richárd is like, bro, I see all of this stuff going on, man. Like, I don't even want none of that stuff, bro. So he goes ahead and resigns the game back in this position right here. So I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by. So all of my people in the Philippines, mabuhay, magandang umaga, masaya kong makikinig muli, maraming salamat aking makaibigan, po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. Appreciate it very much for you guys stopping by. So I decided I'm gonna kind of cut my intros just a touch, and all of my dead, real, like, you know, like ride or die fans that watch my entire video, you know, I'll start kind of talking a little bit more at the end of the video. And anybody who is coming from, let me see, from Armenia, I'm pretty sure Vogjuven is how you say hi. And you guys have, no. Well, good morning in Romanian. I'm having to go off of my sheet. Bună dimineața. That's what I have written down. And anybody who is coming from Hungary, I will say see ya. I only know those two words in Hungarian and Romanian. And so I should have remembered Bună dimineața, but I didn't. But like I said, I appreciate everybody very much for coming by. Kusinim and mulțumesc and maraming salamat. And I'm going to see you guys next time.